Let's bring in right now Georgia's Lieutenant Governor Geoff Duncan. Lieutenant Governor Duncan, thank you so much for being with us. Why don't we start with the $64,000 question that critics of this legislation and now this law have brought up, which is what was the need for a bill that changed Georgia's voting laws when you had the Secretary of State and federal judges saying there was no widespread voter fraud? What was the purpose of it?
Well, I think that is the $64 million question. And, look, the realities of this is the legislative process actually worked. There was some, in my opinion, not so good ideas flew in early in the legislative process. The committee process and both chambers worked on getting something that was much better and more agreeable. It included bipartisan ideas. And it ultimately was the final passage of the bill. But here's the problem. The reality is the outside fringes have controlled the messaging on this. The far right somehow thinks that this is some sort of chess move in response to Donald Trump's misinformation for 10 weeks. And the left is screaming and hollering that this is, some sort of massive voter suppression. I think the real problem with this is the timing. The timing of this is obviously something that has not sat well with folks on all sides of this issue, and certainly that's the price we're paying right now.
So I just wanted to say for viewers that are watching, from what I've read, Lieutenant Governor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you actually stepped in and opposed the no Sunday voting provisions, also stepped in and opposed the provisions that would have gotten rid of no excuse absentee voting. And I'm not just setting you up with a softball question. I'm asking this question for a reason. And that is, do you think that the view of this bill may have been disproportionately shaped by what the initial contours of the bill were before it went through the legislative process, before you raised your objections to no Sunday voting and also no excuses absentee voting?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this die was cast throughout the 10 weeks of misinformation from former President Donald Trump. There's just no way to not point to that. But also, I think I went over the weekend and watched a couple of different videos of Rudy Giuliani when he showed up in some state Senate and state House committee hearings before we started our session. It was cringeworthy to listen to those conspiracy theories and just random ideas that he was bringing forward. That really was the genesis, and that's where the messaging got set up. It's unfortunate. Look, I speak directly to Republicans. The quicker we can stop talking about or relitigating that election and move on and turn the page to a GOP 2.0, that's the best step forward for us.
Greg Bluestein's with us and has a question for you, Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor, I want to ask a follow-up on that because you talk about this a lot, bringing about a GOP 2.0 in Georgia. But, your calls for Republicans to move on from Trump are falling on deaf ears, including even in the state Senate where you preside over. How do you convince fellow Republicans to move on from President Trump?
Well, I think we've got to be consistent. We've got to work hard, and it's got to be bigger than Georgia, Greg. This has got to be a national movement. And I think if we're going to try to gain ground in the midterms, and if we're going to try to regain the White House in 2024, it's got to start here. It's got to start now. Georgia has found ourselves in the center of the spotlight, and so I definitely want to try to do all we can do to put it on display here. But, GOP 2.0 isn't a new party. It's just a better direction forward. It's one that doubles down on the things that we do well as Republicans. And, I think the most interesting data point to point to here in Georgia to prove that there was no fraud or some sort of global conspiracy is that 53.7% of Georgians voted for a Republican state senator, all the while President Trump lost here in Georgia. That just proves that folks were paying attention and they just didn't like the candidate on the ballot.
Your stance here in Georgia has also led to a lot of blowback for your reelection hopes. Do you plan to stand for another term as Lieutenant Governor next year?
Look, we're going to work hard to continue to push this message forward. We just ended our General Assembly session, and I've got 3 beautiful kids and an awesome wife who we're going to reconnect here in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to figure out the best direction forward for Geoff Duncan.
So, Lieutenant Governor, it seems that Republicans and Democrats are beating up on Delta Airlines, who, by the way, was one of the airlines that was the most responsible during the pandemic, and grateful for how responsible they were as far as their seating. They lost a lot of money doing what they did. Also, Republicans and Democrats alike are beating up on Coca-Cola and now Major League Baseball. Are you concerned that Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines, if they continue to get harassed by Republicans and Democrats alike, they could in time look elsewhere for a place to base their businesses?
Look, I think it's up to companies and corporations to make the best decisions they can for their customers and for their shareholders. And ultimately, those are the folks that are going to hold them accountable. If they're making good decisions, and I think their shareholders and their customers will respond well, and to the flip side. And so, look, this is an important period of time for us here in Georgia. I may not agree with what Major League Baseball did. I don't think they looked at all the facts and figures. But at the end of the day, that was their decision to make. And I respect the owners and the players and the commissioner's office for coming to what I'm sure was a tough decision. The people I really feel sorry for are the stadium workers, for the small businesses that were counting on that revenue coming in the middle of a pandemic. These are some tough decisions, and certainly I wish we were in a different place than we were right now. But we've got to play with the hand that we've been dealt, and I'm going to continue to put our best foot forward, continue to look for high-paying, quality jobs to come to Georgia, continue to invite businesses to invest here in Georgia and invest in our future.
Lieutenant Governor, the part of the bill, final question, thank you for your time, the part of the bill that concerns the most people, it seems to me, is where the state legislature can take over not only what the Secretary of State's doing, they're going to, but also can take over what local election officials are doing. We saw in Georgia, we saw in Michigan, we saw in other states, Donald Trump leaning on state legislatures to lean on local officials to stop them from doing their job. How does Governor Kemp, how do other Republicans guarantee that sort of thing won't happen in 2024 now that this bill is passed?
Well, you certainly hope we never have to see anything ever again in this state play out like it did in this past election cycle. I mean, the pressure put on folks just to think a sitting president of the United States is making individual calls to state senators, to election secretaries, state workers, investigators. I mean, it's just wild to even think. But, certainly I hope that isn't the case. I hope we are able to put back on another fair legal election. And, I'm one of those Republicans that thinks that the more people that vote, the better chance we've got here in Georgia. Governor Kemp has done an incredible job of balancing lives and livelihoods over the last 12 months. He's put us in a position to have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. These are tough decisions, and he's doing a great job. And I think Republicans and folks in the middle are going to reward him for that.
All right. Georgia's Lieutenant Governor, Geoff Duncan, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Reverend Sharpton, we've been talking now for about an hour and a half about off and on about this Georgia law, about Major League Baseball's decision, about the battles going back and forth between Coca-Cola and Delta and Republicans and Democrats. What is your takeaway? What needs to be done at this point to ensure that there are fair and free elections in 2022 and 2024, not just in Georgia, but across the country?
The takeaway I have, I was in the Supreme Court when they argued Shelby versus Helder, which really was when they changed the Voting Rights Act. And I think that we are looking at a lot of reaction because there are no national standards around voting. I was reading Frank Watkins, one of the co-founders of National Rainbow Coalition, saying Georgia shows why we need H.R. 1 to pass, which is now Senate Bill 1. So we have national standards, which would correct New York and Georgia. You must remember, looking at history, Joe, that the way they undermined Reconstruction and the 14th and 15th Amendments was in 1883, they gave states rights to voting. We've got to get back to where there's national standards, everyone goes by the same scorecard.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.